Good evening, everybody. How's everyone doing? How are we feeling today? Hope you're all good. Let us know if you can hear me, as always. That'd be useful. Excuses out of the way. We've had a bit of an internet outage today, so hopefully it's back up and running, and this isn't going to just be something that just constantly spurling around as they try to find some bandwidth. So those of you that were at the cuddle, it was great seeing you all. I do enjoy those. I enjoy seeing everyone having a catch up, listen to your stories and your opinions as well. Apologies if I didn't get a chance to speak to you all as much as I would have liked, but as you can imagine, I just try and get around as best I can, or at least until I get so drunk I can no longer stand. Hey, Chris, Adam, Richard, Mo, and Rob. Good to see you all. Okay, well, what are we going to cover tonight? Well, as always, Tuesday's kind of thrown out what I wanted to talk about. We're going to try and cover as much of it as I can. We'll go through the news. Obviously going to talk about a potential $4 billion payment, or I thought it was potential. It's been pretty much confirmed. $4 billion payment to the Department of Justice from Binance to settle some of their cases. And then the fallout from that, including CZ allegedly going to step down. Why am I saying allegedly? Well, the press conference is happening right now. So we'll find out whilst we're in this live stream whether or not that is the case, although all avenues seem to point towards that. I'll go through the news. I'll cover some of the SEC Kraken stuff as well. A lot of this Binance stuff, if I'm honest, I'm going to kind of skirt over it, see what happens as it comes out, probably cover it in a lot more detail next week. But we'll try and cover the main bits. Got quite a few Avenger questions, which we will go through. And then I want to talk to you about Polkadot. There's definitely been some, I don't know what the word is, trouble, rough seas. Certainly a lot of influencers not particularly happy with the direction that potentially Polkadot may be going in. As a rather large Polkadot holder, is that something that I am concerned about? And what do I need to do about it? So we'll try and go through that. I appreciate it may not be of interest to all of you if you don't hold any Polkadot, but as one of my biggest assets, it certainly has a big hold on me. So I'm just going to try and explain that situation. We'll then have a look at what BTC is doing. We'll have a look at some of what the other tokens are doing. And hopefully, by the time I get to that, the announcement will have finished and whatever was immediately going to happen has happened, and then also gone back to where we were. But we'll just wait and see. Okay, let us move in. So the standard chart that we're usually presented with here, we've got Bitcoin on the right side. It's all on the daily. And it's still climbing in sort of that, I don't know, 35, 40 degree angle. It's something that always gives me a bit of nerves. We'll go into price action and TA a little bit later on. But there's potentially, and I say potentially, it's a bit whiffy. I get it. Maybe a shoulder, a head and a shoulder. Maybe we'll see some downwards action. We'll explore that a little bit later on. Having a look at the Dixie. So the Dixie's falling there, and it started to fall last week, about 7 days ago. We're actually now starting to see it. We were looking at 104 as kind of a floor for the last few months. Actually, you take it all the way back through the year. It's been support resistance for a while. We've kind of lost that now. And I don't particularly like doing TA on the Dixie just because of how it's made up. But it is still heading down. Ethereum, and then we've got Casper, just because so many people asked me about it. Well, we're kind of in a bit of a pullback at the moment on both of those. I think Ethereum certainly looks stronger, maybe, but with a capital E and R at the end of that one, because how strong it is, I'm not necessarily sure. Than Casper does, I think, just because, and again, we'll go through it later, but we do have similar kind of level support around about there for Ethereum, but really, because we're in all-time high territory, we've got nothing at Casper until the pullback of around about 9 cents. So we need to just try and understand where that's going to take us and what that's going to do. Now, all the other tokens I will go through. But if, whilst I'm chatting away, one, you got any questions you want to ask me, feel free to drop them in the chat. But two, if there's any tokens you want to add to having a look at a bit of TA at the end, then let me know, because I probably won't go through all of mine. But without any guidance from you guys, I just do go through mine. I'll probably add Dynex on there, as I know a lot of you are interested in that from the end of the weekend. Okay, let's dive into some of the news. And as I said, Binance, I was getting excited here. I was thinking, right, Binance has started to move a large amount of USDT, and we've seen from the on-chain analytics that a few days ago, we knew they'd moved nearly 4 billion USDT from cold storage to their hot wallets over the Tron network. It's what we love about blockchain technologies, you can't hide this stuff from us. Now, it's hidden from me because I ain't even looking, but someone was paying attention. They brought it to our attention. So we kind of knew something was happening. Then the rumors were coming in that Binance, initially, all that was going to happen was they were going to settle with Binance for $4 billion, which is kind of a slap on the wrist, really. Binance makes billions every month. And so, I don't know, as it stood there, I thought, well, actually, they probably got away with it. But, and here's the big but. So what do we get today? Well, rumors started circulating about an hour or two ago that as part of the deal with the DOJ, which is going to be announced in a live stream happening right now, that yes, Binance would still have to pay a $4 billion settlement, but in addition to that, CZ would have to stand down as the Binance CEO. So originally this was spoken by Wall Street Journal and Forbes, but as I say, you guys may get a quicker reaction than I do because you can multitask and look at other things and let me know whether or not that's what the announcement is. What is with this announcement, is that CZ himself has actually pleaded guilty to anti-money laundering charges. And the SEC, Binance are also not only paying this fine, but they too are pleading guilty. So as I understand it, as this article goes on to say, is that CZ is actually going to enter a plea in federal court today in Seattle. I don't know what time, but maybe we'll find out a little bit later on whether or not he's done that. I don't know if he's doing it in person or his representatives are going to be there. Again, I mean, I'm not even a legal expert in the UK law, never mind American law. So without me delving into this a little bit further, I've no idea if him pleading guilty is going to come with any jail time or anything like that. No one's really leaked out and said that. So I'm assuming not, but I just need to do a bit more due diligence, which I'll do after this call. I'll update in the chat, in the group afterwards, and we can just have a bit of a discussion about it. But yeah, big news there. CZ's been, head of Binance now since it started in 2018 to maybe 2017. And actually, although I don't really want to spend too much time on this, we have covered in many Avenger calls that with all the Binance FUD that we've had over this year, a lot of it has been circulating around the higher senior members of staff, the C-suite, etc., all moving on. And the problem is we never really know who's in the C-suite of C as in chiefs, chief exec, chief technology officer, chief finance officer, all of those. We never really knew or know who's in it with Binance. The only one name we've really had consistently for the past 4 or 5 years has been CZ, and it appears now like he is no longer going to be there. Do I think this is the end of Binance? Absolutely not. Do I think it's the end of CZ? Absolutely not. He's still got, I presume he's still going to have all of his BNB and everything else that he has involved within Binance. I'm sure he'll probably, can't imagine he's the type of guy who's going to retire, so I'm sure he'll find some other venture to get in, and Binance will just find another CEO to run it. So yeah, it is a bit of an interesting one that we just got to wait and find out exactly what's going to come about and how the markets react to that. Now, the SEC are not finished there because they've actually been a bit busy because we also find out that they're going to sue Kraken for its unregistered exchange, mixing user funds, and operating security, or it's a security violation by selling securities. Now, this may feel like a bit of deja vu because this isn't the first time even this year that Kraken have been sued by the SEC. As a matter of fact, back in February, and we covered it in an Avengers video on the 14th, but it actually broke on the 9th. Kraken reached a $30 million settlement over the SEC. Now, that was over staking. So effectively, they paid $30 million to get out of any other punishments from that. I can't remember if they assumed guilt in the issue. It doesn't necessarily matter. They effectively ceased staking for all of the United States from there on. And that kind of led to a lot of people in the industry saying, Kraken kind of rolled over. Coinbase actually decided they were going to fight them, etc. So there's a bit there. But the SEC have come. They have decided they're going to take a stab again at Kraken. And I suppose you've got to be a bit cheesed off, haven't you? Because I don't know if the SEC are just using this as a cash pinata now. I mean, We're throwing out numbers like 4 billion from Binance. We know that other exchanges have paid an awful lot of dollars, probably in the millions rather than the billions. Kraken's already paid for the SEC's Christmas dinner party with the 30 billion they had earlier on this year. But now they've just decided to get another couple of claims against them, and I'm sure they'll be looking for some sort of financial remuneration for it. So goes on here. The lawsuit marks the latest push from Gary Gensler-led agency to bring down crypto under its purview, claiming that crypto assets are securities. Well, they can keep on claiming that for a while, but that seems like a slipperier slope these days. So without registering with the SEC in any capacity, Kraken, has simultaneously acted as a broker, dealer, exchange, and clearing agency with respect to these crypto asset securities. That is effectively the same statement they've released for every other company. They just sort of rejig the words, but that's not what they're happy with. But the question now is, who or which securities have been added? I put that in inverted commas. Which cryptos have now been put on the security merry-go-round? And there were 16 that were identified within the suits. So we had Cardano, Axie, Algo, Atom or Cosmos, Chiliz, Coty, Dash, Filecoin. I'm not sure what Flow is. Maybe someone can tell me what Flow is. ICP, Mana or Decentraland. We had Matic or Polygon, Near Protocol, OMG, Sand, and Solana. So some of those, I think, probably have already been on the list of about 72 cryptos that are identified as securities by the SEC. Yeah. So that's kind of where it goes. I'm sure for the merest of seconds, each one of these 16 assets prices probably dropped slightly before recovering, because it is kind of getting a bit of the same old story at the moment. I do feel, particularly with the securities angle, that the crypto market is feeling more positive than negative about that. So this news kind of is yeah, you're in your death rattle here, because we've already had the XRP ruling, we've had the Ripple ruling, and it's only a matter of time until that's finalized, and then it's likely that unless you can prove that these assets are different in any capacity, that's going to fall away. So I don't think this is really the news that is massively shocking it. What it is, though, for me anyways, Kraken is one of the OGs in exchanges, established in 2013. They are very upfront and forthright with the American agencies in terms of trying to be as clean as possible. I even think they were looking for some sort of route towards stock exchange listings. Now, I don't know how far that ever went, but stuff like this is going to put a dent in those kind of aspirations. And again, it just takes me back to, at what point do these exchanges just go, you know what, it isn't worth our time. It's not worth our time to operate in the United States anymore. So we're going to take our T-set and we're going to go somewhere else. And that'll be a shame for the whole of crypto space, but particularly for the United States. So yeah, let's have a look. Hey there, Cliff. Richard's put, I wonder where CZ on the rich list. I'm not necessarily too sure, but yeah, he's up there. DOJ is being fashionably late with their press conference. They don't have your punctuality. Do you know what? Now I put that little countdown. You talk about being behind the scenes of a someone that streams on YouTube. I put that countdown timer on at the start of my thing, but I'm sat here with my mute button on, so I'm not heavy breathing in the mic or anything. And then yeah, when it goes off, but I'm like, it's hit 4 seconds, but it's already past 8 o'clock. What do? I just wait for the countdown to end. That's the boring bit. I'll probably cut that out of the video. Okay, but what is interesting, and this has got nothing to do with these stories, but it is something we're going to talk about a little bit later on, is Polkadot. Why do I talk about this? Because in all the 72 assets that have been identified as a security exchange, in the top 20, there aren't very many that haven't been identified as a security, but one of them is Polkadot. Now, it doesn't mean that Polkadot is bulletproof. Let us just be absolutely clear. There is no official document from the SEC that claims that Polkadot, excuse me, isn't a security. Excuse me a second. Must have swallowed a fly. But there has been some sort of agreement, apparently, to say that it is a software. So it's just interesting. I'm going to talk about potentially a few negative things of Polkadot, but if you're that way inclined and nervous about the SEC and security things, maybe that's a little life raft for you to cling on to. Until they've got something actually black and white from the SEC, I don't really count it, if I'm honest. but there is a lot of talk around that. I'm not sure. This is in the wrong area, so we'll just ignore that for now. Rob's put Sam Altman will now be the new CEO of Binance. You know what? I didn't actually cover it in the news. This probably actually is newsworthy, but OpenAI are having an utter mare in terms of their C-suite, in terms of their governance process. Because I mean, I don't even know where the merry-go-round sits at the moment. But at one stage, Sam Altman was made to resign as in his position of CEO. Then there was bleeding hearts over X and Twitter, basically just saying, you know, oh, I'm a board member, it was a mistake, I wish we could take it back. And then I think I read somewhere today that he has actually been rehired in OpenAI. I'm sure those that are big fans of WorldCoin would have preferred him to have left so he could focus on that. But yeah, maybe he's going to be the new CEO of Binance. Maybe this is just an all a ruse to get him out there. Can you imagine if he was? Okay. Right. I'm going to tackle the RT Avenger questions first, just because I think we can get through those relatively quickly. And I'm going to try and crack the 90 minutes this time. So Rob, wondering if you could add Rweave to your research token list. Well, funny you should mention that. Let's actually have a look where we are, because Rweave is on the list. So these are the ones we've done this year. Dynex, I know I promised it last week. It didn't happen because there was or 2 weeks ago, it didn't happen because Simon moved the trading pub. Then last week we had the conference. But it is out on Friday this week. So for those of you that liked what you heard at the cuddle and you wanted to understand a little bit more, we'll have a short video out on Friday about Dynex. And then I'll be honest, I don't know why I've done these in this order. So I think people want to understand about Tau or BitTensor. So I'll probably move that one up. A0 and Claw. Again, Claw with an AI play, etc., might be relevant in terms of this, but Rweave was only going to be 3 or 4 away, so it's definitely going to be out before Christmas, Rob. And then that's just the list down here of ones to cover, ranging from large to small stuff, really. So, hope that one helps. Crypto guys put CoinMarketCap currency shrapnel.com, new coin on KuCoin. Developers worked some big gains before. Okay, let's look. In case one is load. There we go. Right, here it is, Shrapnel. Let's have a look at them. So, sorry, it's the first time I'm looking at it. So it's just launched because it looks like the data's only started, as in the token. I'm sure the project's been going on for a while. From the 8th of November. From that time, I mean, yeah, okay, it's gone from 8 cents to 22 cents and back down, but this thing's 2 weeks old. That could just be a fairly healthy pump and dumps. Let's have a look at some of the other tokenomics. So market cap of 42 or just under 42 million. So that's put in 2,200. So, okay. A 24-hour volume though, 8 million, which is interesting given how small the market cap is. And it says below, nearly 20% in volume. So I don't know. We'll have a look at the vesting period. But are we doing a bit of pump and dump here, as in the pre-sale? Pre-sale private sales. And now just selling onto the market. I'm not necessarily too sure. This is only self-reported circulating supply, but it's under 8%, so that's a lot to go. So we need to understand where that is. It's going to be 3 billion tokens. But it's on AVAX. Let's hit the white paper. Yeah, there it is. KuCoin, Bybit. These are the spot markets, by the way. So it's on Bybit. So KuCoin and Bybit have pretty much same spread in terms of volume. And then if you only use Trader Joe, it's version 2.1, that you can see down here. A little bit on BitGet, and then I've never heard of OpenOcean. Website. Okay. So it's an actual game. It says buy now. Okay, I won't do a research token on this now because it's not necessarily fair. But I'll certainly have a look at it. I mean, it's an actual game. It's got a white paper. Just quickly have a look through it. I just want to see what it actually supposedly is. It looks like it's probably going to be a first-person. Yeah, first-person shooter game developed by the BAFTA and Emmy award-winning team. Game inventions at Neon. Okay, fair enough. Rich set of player creation tools combining combat creation, curation. Okay, right. I'm sure it's got a backstory. Not really going to have time to go through with it. It would be the first moddable AAA first-person shooter game entirely on-chain. Okay. By moddable, what's it mean? As in you can build your own elements to it. I mean, that could be interesting in itself if you are someone that's into sort of like building that. But hey, I will take a look at it. Absolutely. We'll add it to the list as well. But yeah, I mean, so I'm quite into gaming. I mean, brought up in the 80s and the 90s, so I was going to be into gaming. I do think it's going to be a very big sector. Now, if this game's ready to go, I think it's going to put it in a really good position, because what we saw in the last bull run is people were desperate to play on-chain crypto-related games, but they just weren't that great, to be honest. Either the graphics were a bit naff, or it was just, I don't know what you call it. It's kind of like that top trumps kind of approach, but like Axie, you know, where you just get cards and there's some sort of animation in the middle. Should probably know what that is, really. But I'll definitely have a look at it. Richard, you seem to be a fan. It's going to be huge in this bull run. First AAA first shooter game, and off the grid, both on AVAX. Vesting not for 12 months, so you do buy sharp. I'll probably be looking to sell before it unlocks in 12 months' time. There's got to be some unlock because there's 7% out there. But I get your point. There must just be like a small amount that's able to, you know, get the market makers and everything else going. Off the Grid comes out in February on Xbox, PC, and PS5. Shrapnel due out sometime next year also. Okay, perfect. Well, I'll definitely take a look at those, and I will report back in the chat. But as I say, I'm into that, so that could be very interesting. Thank you, Crypto Guy. Richard, you've got a raft of them, but let's go through. Have you ever heard of the Fibonacci golden pocket people talk about? I hadn't until I read this question. I've heard of the golden ratio, which is what I thought you were talking about. Apparently, there is a bit of a nuance to this. Also, when you have limited data to go on, some people seem to draw another fib retracement from a higher level that hasn't been reached to give you additional levels to look for. Well, let's talk about that one first. Let's just get a chart up. So I wouldn't do that. Like, that's difficult, because let's just take Bitcoin from bottom. We don't know where this one's going to go. I mean, what am I supposed to do? I mean, maybe because it's got a previous price history, I could go, okay, well, assuming it gets to this level. But let's do counts, shall we? Because we know that that's kind of in price discovery. Like, you know, that feels like there's no point doing it. You're just making that narrative fit, because I don't know where that's going to turn around. And if there's nothing to go with, then that's kind of tough. Now, this is on the weekly chart here, but we can kind of see there's a clear level at the moment. And, you know, like, we can use this as a good example. Now, this on the linear chart, and I've literally drawn this on the weekly. So forgive the lines, Richard. I'm sure they can be drawn a lot neater. But what you got here for me, when I do my fibs, is you can right click on this. If we just right click, go into your settings, and it populates a load of different numbers. Okay, now I just unselected a few, and then there's some that I've just created and added down at the bottom. But I just have 3 areas in orange, or gold, you might say, because they are the golden ratio. Okay, now typically everyone thinks of the golden ratio as a 618. So that's a 61.8% pullback. That's all ties back into Fibonacci, whether it's your your fingerprints, whether it's honeycomb and beef highs, whether it's artwork. It doesn't necessarily matter. You know, the thought process behind everything, the Great Pyramid, Giza, Stonehenge, everything, they all have links back to Fibonacci. And the golden ratio, the one that everyone really looks towards, is a 0.618, or the 61.8 retracement. Now, why do I class the other two? Well, the 382 is just the other half of that. So it just depends on which way you're looking at it. So that's the other side. And then the 0.5, I'm just always interested in where the 50% retracement is. Thanks, Richard. Definitely send that video across. So I just always use these as a really good level. And as I said, I just randomly drew this one. But, I mean, look, the 618, bang, takes us back to this previous price support. Now, I ain't saying we're going back down here. I'm just saying they are areas I would target. Okay, before we get to that, and we'll talk about Casper TA a little bit later on, but this is how I have a look at things. I know one of your questions later is about that. is I just find where it's around the 618 and then I look at price action around there and I try and identify levels I think it might get to, which is really good in terms of either setting buy orders, or if you're looking at it the other way, you can potentially set some sell orders as well. And if you're long and short in the market derivatives, which you guys know I'm not necessarily doing at the moment, then you can certainly use these as well. It's just a nice tool to use to try and get some sort of confirmation based on other things. But even the 382 takes us back to this level here. Now, again, it's a weekly chart. I've not drawn it perfectly. It's only on the linear. But I would just try and do this as an example, and you can kind of see why, for me, those ones work very well. Now, I did have a little search to try and understand what is the golden ratio, and the golden pocket. And I kind of started talking about it on here. But I must admit, I was tying myself in knots a little bit. Because what is the golden pocket in the Fibonacci retracement? If an asset isn't total hazard condition, positive, negative, the golden pocket is an important target level a trader should look out for. The golden pocket represents a complete price reversal level for an asset and a very likely point of slow or aggressive uptrend. Most traders assume this is between the 618, so the 61.8% from the previous high, and the 65. So as an example, I just drew this on the chart. It's not going to work for this, but I did dummy test it with Bitcoin earlier. So you can see I've put it here. So I'm just going to select that one now. Click OK. And actually, that has worked, because look at the box I drew. I swear on everything I hold holy, I've not pre-done this on Casper. But I'd already pre-drawn that box and moved it down to the previous price action. But if we zoom in now, we can see that the golden pocket that they're talking about is the gap between this orange line at 618 and the 65. And that's pretty much where I drew this, because that 618 it kind of got to some of this wicks, but actually some of these other wicks and previous bodies opening and closing periods are right now bang on that 65. So maybe there's some merit within that, and it's something I need to look at. But to answer your question in a very long fashion, I've never seen it before, so thank you for bringing it to my attention. I look forward to that video. I'm just wondering what you do when you don't have much data to go on and the levels don't go high enough. Well, I know that's one of your other questions. So we will answer this one now, and then we'll come back to your ETF question. So you put another question: can you run through how you draw fibs to take profits? So again, if you, not that one, profit levels, and then we just put the profit taking on. So if you do go into Discord, under the Avenger section, I've pinned them all of my charts that I've done profit taking levels on. And I do predominantly use, get rid of this, on that, I have to try and reconfigure. I do predominantly use Fibonacci's to identify levels, because these are high level targets I'm looking at to make my plan now before we get into the bull market. So we take DOT as an example. So you can see here on this one, because DOT has a history, I'm able to utilize Fibonacci quite well. Now, granted, that's it down there, so let's just tidy that one up a little bit. And all I'm doing here is exactly the same kind of thing. So I have drawn from the top of the bear of the bull market. Remember, I'm on a much broader scale here. I'm just looking for areas of interest I can take a bit of profit. So I'm happy to sit on the weekly time frame and pull this out. And I pulled it down to where currently the bottom of the market is. And, you know, it had a decent rejection off there. I think if I had done it earlier, I would have probably touched it on this double bottom, but we've actually found a new low. So at the moment, it's the best I can do with that. And all that I then do, let's just move out this way, because you can actually see I've got my narrative here. I've posted these in Discords for you guys to call me out if I don't do it, but at least give you an idea, and to also just be my plan so I can refer back to it. And then what I've done is I've got to understand, you know, where do I think DOT can get to, because, you know, I'm a big believer in the system, but also trying to balance that risk. And I want to try and get, and I explained to some people in there, that if I can take 20% off the table after it's 5x from my initial entry position, then that's basically me taking my initial out. So that's an area that I'd always be interested in. Well, a 5x just so for my entry, which my entry is just under $5 average entry, and around about 22, kind of getting close to a 5x territory there. But it's also tying in nicely with the 382, which also ties in nicely with some price action down here, whether that be the spike down on the way up in 2021, the fall back down in the summer of 21 as well. Oh, sorry, yeah, 21 as well. And then the rally up, but then the rejection at the end of the summer. And then as we came down through 22, it had quite a bit of fun in and around this level. So for me, that seems like an ideal level. It ties in with the fibs. And as you can see, I'm not literally holding it to each cent in and around there. I use this as a guide to be able to then look left to find areas of interest. But this is easy because when it actually gets to there, I've actually got to find the level that I want to take. And it won't be a game of chicken. I won't be waiting for it to try and get to the top. I'll do a little bit of phasing out, but I'll be happy it consolidates in there. I have to take a bit, pop it off the table. And I just use the other ones. And that's it. You know, it's for me, it's as simple as that. If we go on to Multiverse X, you can see I've done exactly the same. But have you noticed that I've had a look where the level is? So on DOT 382, I went above it because the price action dictated that it could possibly go there. But on eGold, which is now Multiverse X, the previous price action was more below the 382. So it makes more sense that the probability is it's going to hit there. And I mean, using these fibs, which we haven't talked about the 236, but look at the 236, that huge pump on a couple of weeks ago on Multiverse X. What did it reject from? It rejected exactly from this 236. Link, look at this. I mean, it's gone, for me, Link, thank God, because I'm not in it. Because I stupidly sold, if you remember, because I tried to play one of those clever plays thinking this was going to continue out. So I'm waiting for this to pull back. But my first take profit there, because I have more faith in where Link's going to go, was going to be around the 5. Now it's hit the 382, and it's already started to come back down. You know, like, again, this fib has been on here for ages. But they do play an important part. And, you know, that's why I respect them. That's why I use them. Obviously, I find it a lot easier and with a lot more conviction to use them on a higher time frame. Day trading, you can find some fluctuations within that. But I feel like 2-day, 3-day, 5-day, weekly, monthly time frame do seem to work quite well. All of these are on there. I'm getting it, don't worry. But we get to these ones down the bottom. BNC and Glimmer. I don't really have any data to go off at the moment. Why do I say that? These launched during the bear market. They were parachains as well. And take Glimmer, for example. I mean, am I really going to set my level either at $20 or $12? Bear in mind, it did that in the first week and then dumped. So I'm going to have to be a bit more realistic on this. But I can still pull this here. Maybe from this level around about 4.5. Bring it out. And there it is. Now, you asked about levels that we could potentially look at beyond all-time highs if you don't have that data. Now, what you can do, and there's definitely less science within this, is you can add these extension levels through here. Now, again, these can be any levels that you feel comfortable with. You just go into settings. These are already predetermined. So I just selected them. But you can see there's like the 2618 and the 3618, the 4236, etc. I've just selected a few of those to give me an idea. And I'll be honest, I'm not using them, but you can kind of see that actually this 272 did time with that wick in the bottom of this price action here. And again, the 1414 was where it turned around. I'm sure if we were on the daily, we'd find a bit more of an accurate picture there. I personally, I just don't necessarily feel comfortable doing that. So when I get round to doing my dot, and let's be honest, so my average entry in dot is pretty much around the price at the moment. It's around about 21 cents. Sorry, not dot, Glimmer. So I want to wait for it to 5x and then get out. Well, actually a 5x to just take out that first 20% is actually on this level here. Which is not a bad level given that we had 4 or 5 months of consolidating around there. And then I'll be looking to take periodic profit here. But as with all the other ones, you know, I want to have a zone up here, which I just let it run to see what happens in the bull market. And I think that's what I'm going to do. You know, I'm going to get myself in a decent position where anywhere from 20 to 40, maybe on some that I'm not as convinced in, 50% I've taken out. And don't get me wrong, you know, I don't feel like I'm, you know, leaving a lot on the table if I can find the right price range. And I talked about this. So yeah, if I 5x from here to here and I take 20% out, that's my initial gone back pocket. I do this for a living. I need to pay myself. Happy with that. But actually, I then still have 80% that can still, you know, 3x, maybe 4x from that position. But from the original position, it's actually gone even further, hasn't it? Because it started off at 22 cents. It could go all the way up to $4. It's suddenly, oops, it's a 2,000% increase there. So then I take, and say I do take 50% off. I've still got 50% if it ever goes higher. And I feel so much more comfortable than never taking any profit. And I talked about this a lot. If you didn't come to the cuddle, the video will be out in a few weeks or a week or so, I'm sure. But I talked about it a lot about, not letting greed take the better of you, just being comfortable identifying these levels. And that's what it is that I'm doing. And I went through that in a bit of a presentation on Sunday, or Saturday. So yeah, hope that one helped. Sorry, let's just have a look. Richard, you've just wondering what you thought when I covered a bit. Microvision change, I'll put that on the back burner. I'll come back to that in a second. I've been looking into it as well. Okay, yeah. Tau, is that ever going to pull back? It's been going nuts. It has been going nuts, hasn't it? Just quickly, Tau. I mean, it's had a fairly decent pullback. Let's put it back on the daily, even today. I do wonder, guys, I'll be honest, this is a tiny coin, yeah? And I know how much you lot have put into Casper off the recommendations of Siam, far more than I have. So if he's telling you that he's gone a bit into Tau, I'm pretty certain that you guys over the last few days are the reason it pumped. Between you and Siam, that's the reason it's pumped up, because it's such a small market cap. Don't forget that with Tau. It really is. Okay, 13 million 24-hour volume. Okay, look at the depth. To move it, what, 26%? Sorry, to move it 2%, it's going to take 27,000. So, absolutely, it can be moved quite quickly, and I think that's what you guys have asked. I'm in the wrong one. This is threshold. Sorry. Here we go. I don't know what happened there. A bit better. It's got a 20 million. Oh, that sounds a bit better. Market cap there. But again, what's the main exchange? Okay, so it's 171,000 to move 2% now in a positive way. And to move 2% down for the sell orders, it's only 24,000. So is it tiny more? No, it isn't. I mean, it's had a hell of a last 4 weeks. It's at one stage, 5x. It's coming back down. It's still 4x up there. It does feel like got a bit of a pullback to come through. As you just mentioned, I was just about to say, there's only 5 million tokens in supply. I've not done the research on this. So I don't know anything about it. I'm not in this project. It's on the list. No idea what the vesting periods are like. No idea what the unlock periods are like. No idea how even the token is generated. So, yeah, I have to wait out on that one. But we're only talking about 20% out in the market right now. Right, let's go back to your question on ETF approvals. Do I think it's a buy the rumor, sell the news event? So let's just be clear to start off with. There's no guarantee that come January we're going to get an ETF approval. Okay, I don't know if ARC 21's is ahead of everyone's. It certainly was, but we're looking sort of back end of the first week in January is when we're going to get the approvals. Now I don't know if the SEC shuts down over Christmas, so maybe it'll be a little bit later than the advertised dates. But there's certainly a lot of hope around they're going to come. But we've got 2 bites of the cherry. So we've got January. The SEC has an opportunity to effectively defer decision one final time for a further 60 days. So that would take it to March. Now, March is D-Day, effectively, because it has to make a decision there. Reject or approve. Now, that's coming quite close to the halvening as well. We're going to your question of once ETFs are approved, do we think it could cause a sell the news type event? Well, there's definitely a lot of sentiment in the moment that would suggest that this is priced in. All this talk again about ETFs is what activated this climb up here. So you could argue that that is priced in. And yeah, I can certainly see that. The other side of it for me, though, is, and I don't know the answer to this, I have a couple of theories. I don't know the exact answer. We'll use BlackRock as an example. Can BlackRock start purchasing Bitcoin? I'm sure they can buy it for themselves, but can they start purchasing Bitcoin solely for the use of a spot ETF until they have been told that they're allowed to have one? Now, if they can't, then they're going to have to buy it. But that doesn't mean that the price is going to skyrocket before you start rubbing your hands together. But potentially it does. Now, Could I see BlackRock having already accumulating it in another entity in which BlackRock Global rules? And then could they make a sale across to their ETF holdings, however it's going to be set up in America? It can be an over-the-counter one, so it doesn't affect the price. Or if you just really gift it to them, I don't know, and just take a huge loss on the other company. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely but I've tried looking, and granted, not massively hard, but an hour or two into whether or not you can buy the asset before it's been approved. And I haven't been able to find anything that clearly says you can or you can't. So I don't know the answer there. But I think what will happen, if I'm honest, what will happen, because it's such a powerful word, ETF, is it will do that for about an hour. It'll do that for about another hour. And then depending on what volume's left, it will keep on going up and down. Because the market makers are going to have big play. It's going to be like two cats batting around a dead mouse. And unfortunately, we're going to be the dead mouse. Lines back. What I would say, excuse me, went down the wrong way there, is I would rather be in the market and at least see it pull back so I can just buy some more and not be in the market and it fly north and never come back. So just bear that in mind if you don't have any Bitcoin now and you want to buy Bitcoin with stables. Sorry, I can't clear this cough. Hopefully that's better. So yeah, so that's kind of what I think of it. Sorry, that's a bit on the fence. I honestly don't know if we're going to see a massive sell-off, but I do think the market makers are going to have fun. Remember my view on price action, it's not affected by news. Market makers just use news to manipulate the price in a direction they want to go. And they don't care if it goes to 69k, if it goes to 15k, because they're playing both sides of the order book. Volatility is what they look for. Right. Excuse me. Okay, I think we've got one last question. Richard again. Actually, let me just catch up on some of the questions. The Cuddle Bar North, is it tiny anymore? Yeah, it's coming. The key is to buy before the cuddles. Yeah. Same tokenomics with BTC, hasn't it? I don't know. I mean, you tell me. Is it proof of work? I will find out. I imagine it doesn't have the same emissions rate, but 1.2 billion is it now in market cap? Yes. Cycles and misattackers, but CZ has pleaded guilty to violations to anti-money laundering and terrorist financing as well. Jesus, really? Okay. What do you think could happen if they reject the ETF application in March, right on top of the halving? Could it potentially mess up the 4-year cycle? No, I don't believe so. Why do I not believe? Because I believe that the 4-year cycle and the emission rate is what drives the price. So I think that it will still go up. This is a really white screen. Let's just get to a dark one. There we go. I think it will still go up. It may not go up as high because it doesn't have all of that institutional money flowing in, but the scarcity of it. We're going to go from what, 6.25 to 3. Can't do the maths. 125. So that's going to drive down, and that's what the whole stock to flow model is all about. And I just think that is going to work out. I do think it's an if. Sorry, it's a when, not an if. Let's not forget, and we haven't really touched on it, but the SEC lost the case with Grayscale about the reason why they rejected their ETF application. They then chose not to appeal that. And so they have a decision to make there, and I can't remember the timescale, of they've either got to reverse their decision and accept it or find another excuse to reject it. So they are kind of running out on slippery ground. The whole point of it can be manipulated and it's a dangerous market, fall flat on its face when they approved the futures ETF, and the judges agreed with that statement. So yeah, I do think it is an if. Sorry, I can get that wrong. A when, not an if. An XRT member Craig pointed out that BlackRock would have bought it already if they really wanted it. Yeah, I mean, of course they're going to buy it. I agree with that, and I'm sure all the others would. But okay, let's do it. You got me sidestepping now, but let's. I'll tell you what I'll do here. So, what do I want to go on? I want to go on Glassnode. What I'm looking for is if BlackRock are buying it, and they're buying it off exchanges. They ain't leaving it off exchanges. So we should be seeing a huge exodus of Bitcoin, because they're going to need a lot. And it's not just them. Valkyrie, Grayscale, all of them. They're all, ARC21, they're all going to be up to it. If they sniff the BlackRock are doing it OTC or behind the scenes, then so is everyone else. So they're going to have to move it. Now, if they do it OTC, we're not really going to be able to follow it. But what we should be able to see is wallets growing. And I don't follow it enough. As a matter of fact, I'm not going to bother trying to search it because I'm not that good at it. I'll do it in my spare time. See if, go on Twitter, see, follow these wallet snipers and just see if they've started to notice any trends there. But, we would assume that the amount available on exchanges would be drying up. And I don't think, I mean, it does naturally over time dry up in this period of the cycle, but I don't think we've seen a massive sell-off. These guys can't be leaving it on an exchange. They need it, stored somewhere, and then what they do is they basically give it to like Coinbase to put it in a private wallet to be the custodians of them. So yeah, okay. So BlackRock want profits for their clients. They want to make profit, and they will dump it when they're in the green. I mean, they will, but I don't think this is an. I mean, I could be wrong. I don't see this as an investment vehicle in which their clients are expecting them to, trade it almost every day. I think this is a much slower way of doing it. Now, I might be completely wrong there, and if they are going to use the volatility, then yeah. Great, but again, what vehicle are they using to sell it? Because they're selling it OTC in huge swathes, and it doesn't necessarily max. It's not going to hit the order books for us to affect the price. So we just got to bear that in mind. Okay, right. The last question, Harry. If I want to participate in airdrop campaigns and want to limit wallet risk, I was going to use a new blank wallet on MetaMask, no Trezor. If, for example, I end up using malicious links or the contract was communicated with going compromised, would I mostly only be risking that particular wallet and not my others as I have visibility in my MetaMask? So that's an interesting question, and it's a yes and a no answer, I'm afraid. And why do I say that? So your desktop MetaMask. So I've got my desktop MetaMask here. I've opened it up. I've got 1.1 Glimmer. And notice for here it says Trezor 1, okay? But actually, when you use your seed phrase and you use your password to open up MetaMask, that is like one MetaMask, which has hundreds of wallets that you can assign to it. So I've got an account 1, account 2, Rush. I used to use that for the glory days of Time Wonderland, and I was in a hurry and I couldn't have time to, because I was trying to beat everyone, so I didn't have time to do my Trezor actions, and then I'd tidy it up afterwards. Demo, Trezor 1, Trezor 2, okay? But look, I can add an account. So add account, we'll call this Richard M. Demo. Create. Okay, so that's just assign me a new account. It's got a completely different account number. You see, the end of this is, or address, should I say, 60ACA. You go back to that demo one, it's FL9FA. So it's a completely different wallet address. So in theory, and this is why it's a yes and a no answer. In theory, if you were just using one wallet which wasn't protected by a Trezor, would that be, could that potentially be contracted and taken out? Yes. Depends on how they hack you. And I know we've had recent hacks lately, but if they use one of those, I don't know what it is, keystroke trackers, or it's a false pop-up box, and they get your seed phrase or your password, then in theory they can take anything out of any wallet that isn't protected by the Trezor. Because the Trezor, remember, although it's still open, you can see it, and you can put money in or you can put assets in. To remove it, your Trezor has to physically be, you have to be physically by your Trezor, because when you go to hit send and you calculate the gas fees, it'll pop up your Trezor suite. You have to put in your codes and your passwords, and then you follow it on your Trezor. Then you go back to your MetaMask, you confirm it, and off you go. So they shouldn't be able to. Now, I'm just going to use the word shouldn't because I'm not the absolute security expert, and maybe there is some sort of fault within Trezor or Ledger or other hardware wallets in which they can retrospectively gain access to that. So it's never 100% risk. But what I would say is, why not protect it with a Trezor? If you're doing the airdrop campaigns, protecting your MetaMask address, do it with a separate address, absolutely. but still protect it with a Trezor, because you can send to that address without having to have your Trezor. It's only when you want to take it out that you don't. Now, it's not my place to say whether or not, you know, airdrop campaigns are the right ones. If you know what you're doing and you go for it, then I highly, you know, go for it. If you randomly see that there are tokens that appear that you have no idea why you're there and you're never on that airdrop, I would avoid those at all costs, regardless of whatever the price you may think it is, because it typically is some sort of phishing exercise. So I don't know if that helps in any way, but use your MetaMask. You can create as many wallets as you want, or up to a couple of hundred. In theory, they shouldn't, anything that's protected by your Trezor shouldn't be able to be removed unless they have your Trezor device, or they've gone and cloned it or whatever. But, you know, it's a hardware piece of kit. But I don't see why you couldn't use your Trezor in that instance. And I know it was pretty gutting on Sunday for us all to hear, can't remember who it was now, we've all got random crypto Discord names, having their Casper hacked and stolen. And it's a timely reminder, sadly, of just how careful we need to be. We have lost as a group, and it doesn't sound as bad because it's not us generally, but, you know, there have been people in our groups that have lost 7 figures, high 6 figures. You know, it stings, and I hat off to all of them, because not one of them has gone with a defeated attitude about it. But just don't be that person, okay? As annoying as it is to have security measures in place, do it. Have your 2FA, have your hardware wallet, be anal about it. You will never need to be in a hurry. I will never put myself in that time wonderland situation again. So just take the time to make sure you're protected. Because as we've seen with this attack, as I saw with Dave's attack, it didn't happen instantaneously. You know, there were days that went by before it happened. You know, you get loaded into a false sense of security. They probably check the activity of your wallet and see you add to it every day and go, well, I might as well wait for a little bit more. So yeah, please just check out that security thread now on Discord. I'll be adding to it. I'm sure Habib and Bijan and Sean and Simon will add to it as we've got more things. I'm just trying to remember what was on there before it got deleted. It's a shame it did, but it is what it is. Okay, right. We've got to here, and I've not even talked about Polkadot yet. Okay, but let's have a chat about Polkadot. Just a second. I'm just going to mute. Sorry, I had to sniff. I'm not feeling too good today, and I didn't want you to hear that. Okay, so the whole point of the thumbnail, the whole point of the conversation that I want to have today is Polkadot. You know, Polkadot is a project that I've been involved in since 2020. I've spoken incredibly passionate about over the last cycle and even during this bear market. And you know, those of you that have followed and watched for long enough, it is one of my largest holdings, particularly when you factor into account other projects on the ecosystem, whether it be Glimmer or Bifrost or whatever. And I would say that over the last 3 weeks, maybe a little bit longer, if you're active in the Polkadot communities, whether on Discord or Twitter, there has been some unrest. There's been a lot of people talking about a multitude of different issues, and which has led to certain people that I've followed for a very long time to consider whether or not Polkadot is the right investment for them. And that's always unnerving for me, because I'm so exposed to this. These people are the people that I turn to for advice, for comments, and for information about the system and the project. And if they're now questioning whether or not it's the right one for them, or as I'm going to go into with Alejandro, who've actually decided to leave Polkadot and sell up and move on, and I got to ask, you know, have I been looking at both sides of the coin correctly? And, you know, I saw this post few days before the cuddle, night before the cuddle. It's never an ideal time because it was midnight. I'm trying to read through it, and then I know I've got to set off the next morning. But anyway, I'll go through some of these posts within here. It's a long thread, and then there's a few things that I want to talk about within it. But as I mentioned, Alejandro, he's been a very active member, very active cheerleader for Polkadot since 2020. He's been very passionate about the project, and he's been a very good source of information. So I know he knows this project inside out. I know he knows this project better than I do. Doesn't always mean that I agree with his opinions, but it's someone that I will certainly read and listen when he speaks. So there's a couple of things. I'm going to skip through them. His first problem that he has is the parachains model. He didn't like it. You guys know I didn't like it. I'd saved up my Polkadot to go for it, and I pulled out last minute because I just didn't like the reward system, didn't want to lock it up. But it is being addressed. So I'm not going to waste too much time on that one. We're going to move Polkadot 2.0 towards more like core time rather than, locking up for 2 years. Companies instead can take rental time, much shorter durations in which they can renew. So you as an investor in that company are not having to lock up your funds for a lot more, but also companies that don't need 2 years, or I know it was 6 months, but you can extend it to 2 years, but you get my point. Don't need all that time, can just use what is right for them. So I do feel that's a positive step forward. So he talks about, because of the way it was onboarded, because of the auctions, we've only been able to onboard 48 projects. And I completely get that. There's nothing we can do about that. So as annoying as that is what it is. But what I would say is of those 48 projects, I do feel like a lot of them have been, developing very strongly within the bear market. And yeah, okay, the values of them have all dropped, but name me an altcoin that hasn't, except for Casper. And so, yeah, I understand his concerns there. Other networks, other ecosystems may have done larger projects or larger amounts of projects over that period. But, that's where it is. This is one of the problems that we will have. So some of the projects have started to migrate and move over to other networks. Now you've got to remember that one of the things about Polkadot, particularly Moonbeam, and that universal translator, as I call it, capability means that there's an opportunity for people to move across to that. Now we look at it as more of a bridging kind of aspect, but it is there. And I'm not trying to defend every single one here. I'm just sort of going through logically in my head what I see as a risk and what I don't see. This is where I start to see some risk, because I start to see data that contradicts other sources of data that I see. But total value locked up on all of the chains is less than 150 million, which isn't great. That is low compared to other blockchains. So, but I see, comments that say that, Polkadot and Kusama are the most actively developed on projects, which I know is a different metric. But, suddenly I'm like, total locked value is really low. Is that information correct? And if it is correct, can I assume that the information I'm going on from other sources is correct? And so I need to look into that. And then you have a look at some of the competitors that we've got there. Ethereum 31 billion, Tron's in the billion, Binance in the billion, Polygon's in the billion, Avalanche and Solana, both 4 or 5 times higher than it. So it ain't great when you look at it just like that. Not getting many new holders. Now, this is a metric that I don't really look at. I don't look at it on anything project, but you do want to see more wallet addresses, because it means that you're bringing new people into the system. And actually, in 12 months, we've only had a 10% increase, which it doesn't give us a comparison against others. But that if true is not great, because it means we're not bringing anyone new in. But then again, a lot of people were tied up in their parachain auction. So it'll be interesting to see how the data is going to be over the next few months when they've now come out, and what they're going to do with it. We are in a bear market. We've got to accept that. But I get it. Transactions are low. Well, okay. That's not something you want to see. And the price is still underperforming. So yeah, okay. DOT's price, although it's had a little bit of a pump recently, we've had some other ones that have pumped hard. What I would say, a couple of them are pumped. I'm not necessarily sure why they pumped as hard as they had. Solana and AVAX being those two. But you're right, we want to, we're all in it to make money. So I want Polkadot to be a successful project. But ultimately, I want that success to translate into dollar. Well, Bitcoin, but you get the point. I'm not sure if this is up to date. It's a few days old, so we'll have to just wait for that, because we know that they've had some hard pumps there. And then this is it, There's some blockchains that are actually able to just copy what Polkadot are doing, and then Polkadot get no benefit from that. So as positive as that is, that's also frustrating. So Cardano can benefit from it without paying for it or without partnering for it. Now, this is where we get into something which I'm going to talk about a lot more. The main issues that I've seen over the last 3 weeks has all been around marketing and business development. And the fact that Polkadot is just not doing as well as a lot of its major competitors. And ultimately, whether you class this as a layer 0 or a layer 1 or however you want to, this is incredibly busy. What I'm looking for. competitive sector. And so you need to be making as much noise as you can. And whilst it does have a strong brand name with it, everyone else is marketing to high heaven. Now, Polkadot doesn't necessarily have an owner. I mean, we praised when Gavin Wood stepped down from the CEO and moved back to being sort of like chief engineer. Perfect. But we have Parity. They run the Polkadot Foundation, so they're kind of in charge of all of this. Now, I'll go into it in a little bit more detail, but suffice to say that Parity are not really keen for sort of a centralized involvement within this, and they want to decentralize a lot of it because they're the buzzwords that go with projects, with crypto. But with that comes the responsibility of actually finding a good enough way to manage that while still being able to keep. If you want to decentralize your marketing, have no central office or whatever you want to call it to do it, then how are you going to do that in a successful manner that is going to be KPI led? It's going to be able to help grow, but also going to be the best bang for your buck, what you're paying for. And that's what's caused a lot of the uproar. And he goes into a few more posts here to talk about why that's potentially a problem. Then he goes into the treasury, and again, this isn't great because with this governance and this treasury, it seems like there's a few key wallet holders that get a lot of the lion's share of the opportunity to make any voting requirements, and that's never good. It's not necessarily decentralized. Now we're going to talk about OpenGov and how that's potentially changed it. I don't know if it's changed it for the better. So this is him talking about one whale, just basically saying, if you don't support what I want to do, I'm just going to sell my entire bag, and then it's over. And then he goes into part two, which I'm conscious of the time, I'm not going to go into. But suffice to say that he lists probably 35 different items, of which 10 to 12 made me think, do I need to research this a little bit more? But the one that is repeatedly talked about on Twitter, the one that's repeatedly filmed on YouTube and in the Discord channels, has got to be around the marketing. Because when we're used to governance tokens, we're used to any token that is stakeable has a governance capability for it. But think back to when Polkadot first started. Polkadot was basically the people that brought that idea to the table, and it seemed a completely sensible way of going about and managing how you were going to upgrade and and improve your project without having to use hard forks. Because we look at Bitcoin and the history of that. When it goes a certain direction that everyone can't agree, it just creates a fork, and we've got Bitcoin SV, or we've got Bitcoin Cash, or Bitcoin Gold, or whatever it is. Well, this is a way, and it's one of Gavin Wood's visions, if you will, of okay, well, how can we actually make changes to the network, to the project, that can be agreed upon, and then we move forward, and we don't have 15 different variations of Polkadot. And this came out a couple of years ago, and depending on how much you were staking, gave you sort of a weighted opinion on what could be done. Now, as projects are relatively early, even though it's decentralized, you do want some sort of centralized direction to help steer you the right way, but give the community the opportunity to vote on things. And it went that way, but we were still seeing that the treasury or the larger wallets were still being able to dictate the way it's going. And I don't necessarily have a problem with that, because what I don't want is in a new project, every man and his dog coming up with a new idea, and we're just muddying the water. We need to have some sort of clear direction. Anyway, what then happened a few months ago is Polkadot decided to revamp how they were going to do their governance protocol, and they were going to launch something called OpenGov, which was a completely decentralized way of managing new changes going forward, whether shall we be changing the code, changes in inflation rates, or to deal with marketing. Because as I said, that was effectively being shelved by Parity. And the reason why, only a few weeks ago, I'm jumping about a bit here, but Parity Technologies, they were making a 30% layoff from staff. And one of the focuses, most of the cuts were going to be in the marketing and business development departments, which is why this has come to light. Let's be frank. They're getting rid of nearly 100 employees, most of them in marketing, because they see the future of the marketing for Polkadot being focused solely through OpenGov. I'll explain how they were going to do that in a bit. But there's you can go through this, you can read all the blurb on their website, and then if you can go through, they've released 3 threads which basically go through the history of Polkadot's governance. So there's the original one, and how to do it. So not particularly relevant for this. I'll post all of these in Discord just so you can kind of build up your understanding. So if you guys are in DOT and you don't understand this, it may never bother you, and I need to make that decision a bit later on, whether or not it needs to bother me. So then they talk about how you can participate within it, within this next one. Sorry, this one is about how they built OpenGov. So a revolutionary approach to on-chain governance. First time on-chain decisions execute automatically, seamlessly, and faultless upgrades. Oh, that was the previous one. Let's get back to OpenGov. Here we go. Since launching in June of 23, OpenGov has brought Polkadot's governance to a new level, more decentralized, inclusive, efficient, all while maintaining the highest levels of security. Polkadot Fellowship attracts top talent from around the community and built-in support and incentive systems. Fellowships observes cannot be dictated. It's the DOT holders that make all the decisions. OpenGov introduces a parallel referenda tracks for agile and dynamic governance processes. So there's 2 ways in which you can do it, and kind of depending on what you're wanting to change or how much you want to be paid for it, depends on how long a voting period there is, which is a novel way of dealing with it, but as we're going to find out later, may not be the best way. And then you can kind of track all that kind of stuff and route it all back. And what I will say is, although the beef seems to be about the marketing side of things, there is safeguards in there for if you're wanting to do some coding. You have to be part of the Polkadot Fellowship to be able to propose some of those. And it's not based on wallets. Matter of fact, I think it takes like 19 years or something to get to the highest level of the fellowship. So you really got to be a believer in the system to go through that. But then we get to this here. This is effectively the platform for it. Trust me, I'm getting to a point, I promise. And effectively, you've got all the latest activities are listed here, and they can be broken down into micro levels, and you can just have a look at them. So we can go to big spender. So someone wants, well, let's find one that's executed. Some sort of C++ improvement, and they're looking for 168,000 DOT to undertake this. They put forward their proposal, and it ain't going to mean much to me. It doesn't necessarily matter. You can kind of get a feel for what it is. There's all further documentations and requests to go there. Again, gets put to a proposal. This would have taken 28 days for this to be reviewed. And then if you have any Polkadot staked, you can then have voting rights and you can vote on it. And as you can see, 35.1 million DOT voted yes or the ayes, and only 11 voted nay. So it was approved. And that 168,000 DOT will now be moved from the Treasury Fund to wherever it needs to go to implement whatever they decide to implement here. So there's a section, though, on small tippers, big tippers, small spenders, and medium spenders. And these are generally populated now with marketing requests. So this is influencers, and influencers will come along saying, I will do a lot more videos for you, and you can pay me X amount of Polkadot to do those videos. And let's just be clear, I'm actually not against that. If you're a big passionate fan of Polkadot and you have got an audience, we know that parity ain't going to do it. We know there's very limited marketing out there. We need to get it out somehow. And bearing in, assuming that there is some sort of way of tracking all of this kind of stuff, have at it. As someone who creates content once a week for you guys, it's difficult to do. It takes time, it takes effort, and if this is your day-to-day career, then you should be paid for it, particularly if you are bringing eyes to the project. And so that's what's basically been happening. But it started off as a bit of the Wild West because people were asking for it, but there was no kind of set KPIs as to how you were going to be measured against. As a matter of fact, you actually get paid the DOT ahead of time. And so 16DG, who's got a very large wallet, he's kind of come in and is very well respected and talked about, well, yes, it was a bit of the Wild West to start off with, but going forward, particularly for anyone that's wanting to have a large amount of money or DOT given to them, then we're going to look at some objective KPIs that we can score you against. And they're not going to be anything that can be gamed. So they're not going to be on views, not going to be on followers or likes, because we know those can be bought. It's going to be on like how can you attract the biggest talent to be part of your show? So can you get Gavin Wood in there? Because someone like Gavin Wood's time is very precious. So he's not going to go to every man and his dog. He's going to go to who he thinks is the best. So if you can have that caliber and you can bring him along to be interviewed or part of your show or whatever it's going to be, then of course we'll pay the big bucks. So it's not resolved yet, but they're getting that way. There's one referendum in particular that caused the most hate, and it was referendum 213, which we will have a look at, and it's by this guy here, Cryptos Chains. So he is, I would say, a small fry. That's potentially not fair, but in terms of followers, he's got 6,000 followers on Twitter. What I will say is he is invested, or was invested in DOT. He talked about it a lot. So he's got a YouTube channel as well. He's got 18,000 subscribers. You can see he's done a lot of videos on Polkadot. They're the live events he does. And then, all of these ones here. And this is all before he's gone for funding. So don't get me wrong. He is, someone that, should be at least considered when going in for these. And so what started is, without going into his backstory, trust me, he was doing this because Kusama is the Canary net. So OpenGov was actually originally launched on there. So because he did Kusama stuff, he went and tried to get funding through Kusama. And some were successful, some weren't. Doesn't necessarily matter. So Claudio is his name, but Cryptos Chains. So these were a couple of big tipper requests. So you can see here, he's requested 840 DOT, which at the time, I think was around, let's just say it was $4. So he was looking at $3,500. Okay. And this one was approved. And it was $3,500 to basically do 15 videos, which I don't think that's bad. He's going to do it within a month. Fair enough. I didn't vote on it, but it got approved. So then he went on another one, and I assume he did those 15, and then he's asked for 900 DOT to do 25 videos over 2 months. Again, I don't think it's particularly that expensive. It's about $4,500, and we're going to get 25 videos out of it. Problem with Cave, though, was when 213 and Cryptos Chains Media, buoyed off his recent success and pretty much sailing through, suddenly now asked for 22,000 DOT, nearly $90,000 worth. And what happened was he was basically saying this was for, I don't remember how many videos it is. It was hardly any. 15 videos, I think. Oh, no. Oh, no, there's 104 short videos, I'll be fair, and then 15 long videos and interviews. And what happened is, to start off with, because this, sorry, I should go back. When you do this version, the big tipper, you only have 7 days in which it needs to be approved. Can't ask for as much. So he went on to the next one up, which is the medium spend, but you have 28 days now. And suddenly he was winning this like 95%. But people were asking why? Because he doesn't have that, that big a reach. Why are we paying nearly $90,000 for someone that, although they can do a lot of videos, isn't going to actually put that many eyes on it? But he was winning. He was winning this thing. And he was in this, he was having an interview, which basically he actually confessed that, all these influencers just get their chill followers to just vote for them so that they sail through. And he was hoping that was going to happen on this one as well. And you can see at the time of this video, it was at 56%. The fight back was already happening. At one stage it was there. Excuse me, sorry for sniffing. So he kind of outed himself a little bit, but there was a lot of hate for him beforehand. And if we go look, I would scroll down, people have some good points. You don't have that many followers. You want $500 a video. Previously, a month before, it was like $200 a video worked out. Why are we suddenly paying you so much? Then he was like throwing in a 5% for slippage fees, which he's like, well, wait, this guy's like, that's one of the biggest projects in the world. You can spend $150,000 on slippage and it wouldn't move it more than the 1%. So I get his point completely there. And suddenly the tide had turned. But let's just actually have a look, because I'm not trying to shit on Cryptos Chains. But look at this. He's getting 237 views, 133 views. We're not talking about eyes on here. And this just shone a spotlight on, actually, there's loads of influencers that were taking advantage of this. Effectively, they weren't draining the treasury because, the treasury's got a lot in it, but we're not spending it wisely. And so this governance protocol being decentralized is actually being utilized by, this just collection of influencers which are just egging each other on and getting it there. And I am not a YouTuber. I happen to use YouTube now because Zoom failed on me. Okay, I don't ask you to like my videos. I don't ask you to subscribe. That isn't it. This is just a platform for me to use. But bearing in mind, he's got like 133 views, 237 views. I have 59 subscribers, and I'm getting half of what he's getting. And I'm not even asking for it. So, and I don't have a Twitter following or anything. So, this is just you guys watching it, and then the rest of the people just watch it on Vimeo. It's absolutely fine. I used to have another channel where I did actual videos, and again, okay, I put it out, they're not of good quality. I'd get 1,000 views on them though. So suddenly someone's wanting 90k, and he's only getting a couple of hundred views. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm cherry picking there. Excuse me, because there are some videos in his account where he does get over 1,000 or 2,000 or whatever. But the point I'm trying to make is he doesn't have a track record of bringing in the masses, and so if you don't, then you got to fall foul. A lot of people kind of saw through this, and he ultimately ended up losing. And he's taken his bat and ball home. I kind of think he has to, really. And he's no longer going to do anything on DOT. He's left the ecosystem. But he's not the only one. Blockchain Brad. He's asking for 14,000 DOT. This one's been approved. And it sounds great because he's got 55,000 followers on X and 26,000 followers on YouTube. Let's go to his YouTube channel. Videos. He's not done a video in 2 years. He's not made a video in 2 years. On his lives, 5 years. So he may have 26,000 followers, but he doesn't do videos. We've just paid him 15,000 DOT to make videos. I'm sure he's going to start making them again. Don't get me wrong. So I went on his Twitter, and just believe me, since the 25th of October, I've actually scrolled down it because I want to make my point somewhere else. He has absolutely been massively hitting at Polkadot stuff. Of course he is, because I mean, someone wants to pay me 15,000 DOT, I'm going to be swept up on Polkadot. Don't you get me wrong. So he is, reposting, posting about stuff. Get it, yeah. But before then, we're getting to him posting about Polkadot. Like 3 or 4 in May, but you scroll down, we're talking May this year, May, April, that's one post in April, one in January, one in September 22. Then we're talking May 22. This guy's been out of the game on Twitter as well for 18 months. But has got through. And this is showing a huge flaw that not only are we wasting DOT, but we're giving this to people that actually don't have an audience. And so I've just picked 2 at random to try and keep this short, but it is a problem. Now, the likes of Altcoin Daily, he's asked for 19,000 DOT. So 21,000 DOT. Reading online, it's 110,000. This I can get on board with because Altcoin Daily is a monster. He is very active. He has 1.3 million subscribers, 1.4 million followers on Twitter. So he is going to put eyes on this. Now, he ain't doing that many videos. Don't get me wrong. But I know the quality is going to be good and they are going to be in depth. So potentially, yeah, you have to pay a bit to get the absolute best channels, but at least you're paying for it in the numbers. Crypto Wendy, some of you may know, she went for 10,000 DOT. Hers got rejected categorically because she's never shown any interest in DOT before. So again, just people are just coming in, and that's my worry now, is that this is just going to get milked unless it's patched, unless we find a way to just manage this governance process. So really big fallout in the whole sector, and then everyone was getting ugly, and it just went a bit narrative and nasty, really. I realize what time it is. I'm going to speed this along. What I will say, because I'll post this there as well for those of you who are interested in DOT, is there's been a lot of DOT fans that, again, I still follow, that have come about and talked about the drama, and then talked about the positives that are still there, and it does kind of give me that reassurance within it. And then I know Bijan's in the chat at the moment. He's a big fan of Market Mobster, and I've followed him for a long time as well. He's got a big holding. He was very anti this referendum. he's come back to say that, you know, he's still going to be involved in it. He's just going to stay away from the marketing side of things. And I'm very exposed. Whether or not I'm going to limit my position, I'm not sure. Whether I'm not going to add to it, again, I'm actually not sure. There was still some money to put to one side, but perhaps I can use someone else. And my concern has to be that if we're now going to use, you know, like this is an aggressive market that need, you know, we've got constant innovation from multiple projects. And as good as Polkadot may be, if our sole marketing is going to be based on community voted on influencers driving it forward, there is an opportunity for us to be wasting a lot of time and effort. So they, in my opinion, they need to focus on how they're going to bring that narrative forward so that we get the best bang for our buck. So ultimately, we as dot holders, or me as dot holder, know that that's been spent well. I don't mind, spend it all. That's what the treasury is there for. Spend it all, because it ain't going to me, so it doesn't bother me. But just make sure that we're getting the eyes on, and that is a risk going into a bull run. Yes, everything will rise, but other things will rise faster than the others, and often that who shouts the loudest. So yeah, that's my run through and rant for 20 minutes on Polkadot. Hope it helps. Let's see what I've missed. It's part of the reason it put me off putting too much into CAS, because I can't store it on my Trezor ledger. Okay, that's going back to the hacking question. Yeah, never great. But I think ledger's coming, so no worries there. Okay, let's move through where we are with some of the other stuff. Okay, we've been following this for a few weeks, and there isn't really much more to say here, but this is where we're looking at, are we still overbought? What's the momentum like within the market? We've got this trend line, year-long trend line that we've had. We busted through that, but it is an area that we're looking for where they're going to retest around about 31 to 32,000 now. As the weeks pass, it just goes further and further up. On the RSI, not much has really changed. So last week, if you remember, this downward slope was happening last week, but I said you've got to wait to the end of the week. And actually, it just flattened out, plateaued. And again, today, or this week, the candle's moving down because we've had a red couple of days. You know, we bust through it. The biggest battle now is a retest of this 70 level. We've seen it bust through before and bounce back in other bull runs, and it could well do that. But if it breaks it, then I think that's a sign that, you know, it's gone past overbought now, and we're moving back towards a rebalancing. Whether or not we get all the way down to oversold, we'll have to wait and see. And similarly with the stochastic, so this is about momentum. We talked last week that it can flatline for a while now, but we have had that cross, which is still stuck. So the slow and the fast have crossed over. And what we want to see now is that blue here, whether or not it comes back down through 80 and how steep it's going to come back down. That's what's going to drive us. That's the fast line. That's what's going to drive us to have some, you know, downward momentum. So yeah, sadly we just have to wait and watch that. In terms of this chart here, which we drew, we had all the liquidation levels and everything else. I mean, again, that's the trend line. Seen it bust through, rejection, but it didn't stick landing above it. Still now, 3 weeks in a row, it has been hitting this level. Excuse me. We're not able to get through, and just taking it, you know, back a step. So this is a daily now, 3 days in a row. So last Wednesday, you know, this was Thursday. Tuesday last call, we talked about it busting through. It's shot through, and it literally took the top of that level, 38,000. Took all of that liquidity, and then it just dumped back down. And we've been snaking up that way there. And again, I stand by what I mentioned at the beginning. I do get nervous at sort of like 30, 40 degree angles just going up. Now, whether or not you want to draw a compression, we'll use another chart a little bit later on. But ultimately, it keeps on hitting this. And some will argue that the more it attacks a trend line, the weaker the trend line gets. And I agree with that. But bars are getting smaller and smaller as they are attacking the trend line. There's definitely some buy pressure because the wicks are to the south, if you will, below the bodies. But, you know, we've got to look at things like volume and then momentum, which we checked on their chart, and we know they're stalling. So we've had such momentum for the last few weeks to get us to where we are. We know we're looking overbought and out of momentum, bullish momentum. It just feels like we are lining up for a correction. Now, looking at the 50 EMA and the liquidation levels, that's kind of tying in at the moment on the daily around about 33,000, which is where we may see that correction come back down to. I still think the 31 is where I'm sort of looking at 31 to 36, just because there's more action around here. This kind of, I mean, now that I've squeezed the charts, this looks even steeper, but there's more action around here for this to come back down to. It may only be a wick back down, but when we lose 50, you know, we do fall further, and then maybe we recover it a little bit later on. But just move on to this other chart. Nothing earth shattering from the DOJ. Basically, Binance was doing things we all pretty much already knew. Okay, let's have a look at BNB's price hasn't really fallen. As a matter of fact, markets, I mean, they're red. Don't get me wrong, 5+, but a huge pullback. So having a look at, can we draw anything here? I'll have a look at the market maker thing as well. But I mean, wick to wick, there's definitely that happening here. So there is something that's bouncing along here. The question is, how do you draw this next one? You could draw it as a flat top, I suppose. Probably about as good as you get, because you can maybe get a channel this way, but it's kind of like, yeah, probably. So there's potential for that there. So there's two different outcomes really. Flat top actually could burst to the north as well. And then this channel, get the line back up again, which I can't. It could still climb back up, but at some stage it is going to fall out at the bottom of that. Now, if we take these away and we have a look at where we are, what we need to know for me is this is rise 3, but when are we going to start forming the M of it? Because at the moment we've had the rise up, we've corrected ourselves, we were unsure whether or not it was, but we're happy where we sit now. Obviously was a rise 3. Need that M to fall, so that peak to come in and retest and then fall back down. Maybe what we'll see is the stall of it do that. Maybe we just see it go down to 33, maybe down to 31.5, recovering 50% that back to level. And sorry, my notes have been really blocked now. A pull back up, get some momentum back in, and then I'll see you later. But I mean, it's a daily. It just takes a while to play out, unfortunately. It's just where we sit with it. Dot, that was scary in terms of how vertical it climbed. So this is only natural. Today's taken us down to the 200, but I see it falling further. I'd see at least a 50 being taken out, and of that move up, that's probably about a 50%. But that'd be a level I'd maybe be interested in buying some more. But as I said, I need to do some more digging in and around that. Casper, so we had it get above 15, and then since then we've had that pullback. Now it's pulled back to the 5. Now I didn't talk about the 5 on the daily on anyone else's, but Casper and the 5 are it's a love affair. It really is. So this is an asset that has defied us for months. So it's already retested the 5. I'm not going off these fib levels because I drew that on from the previous example. Or did I? No, this was from, actually saying that, this was from it waiting here. So, okay, there's an extension of a 618 through that. But ultimately, it's hit the 5. But as a few other people have drawn, you get down on the 4 hour, the 8 hour, and the 12 hour, there is a rising compression that it's now fallen out of, potentially looking at retesting that. And there's two areas in which you could look at that. So let's just break this down. Let's get rid of fib level now. So it was drawn by people following Casper better than I did. A bit like that. It's fallen down. And then your target is this the base here, around about 11, or is actually this the base here, which is 9 to 8.5. For me, this one feels more likely. Why do I say that? Well, the 4 hour takes us to 10, 50. I mean, it's been away from the 50 for a long time. But you go on the daily, we haven't touched the 50 since the 16th of October. That's actually down at the 7. So by the time this plays out, I can see this climbing into that area and meeting for a retest. I just feel that it needs to have one of those. Now they do break through the bottom of it, which is why I think we need to consider this whole range. By the time this gets up there, I think it could hit the bottom side. It spikes through like it has done on this. Just my opinion on that. Did you say that you think Casper is coming to Ledger? Apparently so, yes. That is what they are saying. They're working with Ledger to put it on there. So, I can't remember what Simon uses for his mobile. But perhaps is able to have a look there as well. Excuse me. BNC. I'm glad BNC is coming down because I really like it and I want to buy some more. So if it can fall to 23, I'd be happy to buy some more around there. Again, I got out of this at 43. And this one is kind of, I got out of it here, but for weeks, everything else kicked on. And Multiverse X has just kind of just meandered a little bit. Oops. So this is ETH. So the question we got now is, we've had such a meteoric rise up like everything else. We've started to pull back. We've hit the 5 and the 10. Question is this just a dead cat bounce and a follow back down to the 50? Or is this actually a bounce off this and up we go? And I think ultimately that's going to be dictated by Bitcoin and the rest of the alt market. I didn't actually talk, I briefly mentioned it there, but there's that little head and shoulders on Bitcoin. Not to forget. I'm going to skip over Glimmer. I'm praying that Link comes all the way back down. I mean, you know, I'm not going to kid you. I need Link to get down to here. Really. I'll probably buy back in if it sticks a landing up here, but that's where I got out at my trade. So that's where I need to recover back to at least get back in at break even. And this one had one of the biggest rises of all altcoins. But at the moment, yeah, it's hanging in around the 5 and the 10 again. But same with them all. I'm sorry if it's a bit repetitive, but I do think that we need some sort of retracement back to the 50. I suppose with this, I can stick a fib on for us. Have a look. I mean, it'd be nice if it hit the 618, wouldn't it? Get that golden ratio in play. Right where I need it. But yeah, I certainly unfortunately have to see that. And if I was to draw a rectangle around the fib level, it'd be all that price action there. So, you know, it'd be hitting the 50 and just punching through to sort of the bottom of the cloud. Matic, so it got named in the lawsuit, and so it's fallen, but again, it had a really good rise up there. I mean, the good thing about all of this, regardless of where you are in the market, out of the market, is we've seen the strength of, you know, what a mini bull run can do, just think what a maximum one can do. So if this has been your first time in sort of seeing prices move like that, that's kind of what it's like in a bull run. So don't feel nervous how it's coming back. You know, just think it'll go again, and I've seen what it can do, so I'm happy to invest. That's certainly how I'm looking at it. I haven't taken any profit at any of the tops here. I just continued to buy. Let's have a look at totals, and then I think we'll probably knock it on the head because we're at 90 minutes. So overall total market cap, I mean, there's still that head and shoulders. It's very Bitcoin-esque, isn't it, really? But there is still that head and shoulders. I'm going to put it on a smaller time frame so we can break it out a little bit better. It's definitely a head and shoulders. The 4 hour. I mean, the head's narrow. It's like a pinhead, isn't it? But it's there. I'm trying to see if is it here, maybe? That's the level. Maybe take us down to like 127, something like that. And down to about this level. Bit of price action there for it to catch on. Total 3, taking out Bitcoin and Ethereum. And again, this is actually even clearer with the head and shoulders there. That one, let's just come on. Let's do it proper. That take us, you know, I mean, it was at 430 at the peak of the head, down to about 370. So, I mean, you know, let's not kid ourselves. Again, a really strong rise for a good part of a month at the moment. You know, a nice old season to see. We've stuck the 5 and the 10 all the way up. We've retested the 50 twice and recovered it, but this time we failed. I mean, the writing feels like it's on the wall. I suppose the next 4 or 5 bars will really tell us. But I just want to put this on the daily. See where that. I mean, that line at the moment, it's actually not even that far away. Sorry, the line where we're not that far away from where the 50 is. I mean, obviously this is going to move up, but everything just feels overextended past the 50. I may be keeping my TA a bit simpler, simplistic there, but that's just what it feels like it is. Is there anything anyone wants me to go through on the charts? I said I did die next, didn't I? Apologies. Let's have a look. So again, I mean, what day did this happen? Sunday. Anyone want to imagine what happened on Sunday? A post-cuddle purchase of Dynex made by one individual and then a whole community behind it. I mean, it was inevitable that was going to happen. And so I didn't buy. What I've read of Dynex so far, it is one I actually kind of like. But I just feel this is going to retrace it all back, I'm afraid. I think that was just a low market pump up, and this is coming all the way back down. And maybe I got Dynex and Tal the wrong way around. One of them is really small. It's only 90. Yeah, it's only 90 million market cap, which ain't big. Yeah, it's less than 4 million 24 volume today. I know on Sunday we had a lot more, but that's what I mean. I think you guys have some power in what you do. And the reason I say that is just speaking with people on Saturday, about how much Casper you own. It's not small beans. A lot of you have been investing an awful lot of money in it, which is great, absolutely, because it's done well. But it just goes to show how much our community holds. And it does echo time, Wonderland time days, So whenever the time is to sell, you make sure you're the right side of that. Right, to go back to Casper there. Because if you all sell together, that's going to eat up the order book. So with this one, I still see that definitely below $1. I see minimum retracing this vector candle. But given the 10 and the 50 are so close, I wouldn't be surprised if we see 90 cents again for this. I think this was us for you. And it wouldn't have done that without it. So I think that just wasn't natural and it's coming back down. I'll let you know on Friday whether or not I think it's a good project. I kind of liked what I heard, but obviously, I like to do my own research on that. So that's kind of where that one sits, really. No one's put anything in the chat, so I am going to knock it on the head there. I'll just move that onto full screen. And just, thanks, Mr. Tacos, for the updates. Doesn't look like the DOJ has said anything that's really upset the market before the news of what we found out about. But next week, I will definitely go into this a little bit more. We'll see what's happened, see if CZ's got anything to say, what the court's going to do with all of that kind of stuff. And yeah, once again, guys, thanks very much for tuning in. I do really appreciate it. I think we got a few more viewers this time, which was good. So hopefully some of you liked what I had to say on Saturday. And all it leaves you to do is just enjoy the rest of your week. If you've got any questions, then please feel free. There's a lot of new people in the group that have direct messaged me. I've started to get back to you guys, so thanks for your patience on those. But if you've got any questions, particularly around security, or just, if you're new and you want to know how to set it up, just message me. I'll be more than happy to help. If it takes me more than 24 hours to get back to you, I apologize, but there's a few of you that have reached out. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and all you have to do is just say cheers and speak to you all soon. Thanks, now.